Blog Talk Radio.
It is a new year, and very pleased to say that we are continuing on with our Viatorian Voices, Conversations on the Way podcast series. Hi, everyone. This is Jim Mitchell, and certainly want to wish everyone a happy new year. Hope you are all in good health and enjoyed a good, blessed holiday season. We're going to jump right back into talking about the Viatorian community today, and I am joined by a first-time guest, Father Jason Nesbit, who, we're going to learn a little bit about his background and what he does today in the Viatorian community, and I think it's a new and interesting perspective. So, first of all, Father Jason, thanks so much for taking the time. I hope you're doing well as we start a new year.
Well, thank you, and Happy New Year. It's a joy to be with you today, and just to talk about the many aspects of Viatorian religious life.
Yeah, and you bring a unique perspective. We're probably, maybe 20 episodes into this series. I've talked with young people. I've talked to people from various parts of the country, and we're going to learn about your background as a pastor in a parish, one of the Viatorian parishes. But let's talk first about the parish itself. Tell me a little bit about the Maternity of the Blessed Virgin Mary Parish.
Okay. Maternity of the Blessed Virgin Mary Parish, it's what we consider the mother church of the Viatorian mission here in the United States. The first place where missionaries from Canada, Viatorian missionaries, landed to minister to French-speaking Catholics in 1865. And the parish predates the Viatorians' arrival, and we are getting ready now to celebrate our 175th anniversary. This year, 2022, is very special. 175 years since our foundation as a parish.
That's extraordinary, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on, and that provides a nice introduction to the parish. What about you? What led you down the path of working in a parish as a Viatorian?
Well, I felt the draw to the priesthood, especially in my younger years, in my childhood. I really felt that in my discernment, that to have maybe perhaps a number of talents that could be used in pastoral ministry, and so I did discern, from the angle of being called to the priesthood, and I could explain how the Viatorians were at my home parish where I was growing up, and it was really, a point of discernment whether I would be called to the diocesan priesthood or if there was a calling or a draw to religious life, whether it be to community living or, being more of a parish priest in the diocese.
And as you went through that process, what sort of guidance, what sort of support, what were the things that the Viatorian community sort of shared with you that led you eventually to feel that was the place you belonged?
I felt like on the local level, the priests that were there at the time, they noticed that I just enjoyed being around the church community, enjoyed serving at the altar, going to parish events, and being that constant presence, almost at times maybe even a pestering presence at times. But to have that encouragement for people, it really helps when people say, hey, have you ever thought about this way of life? Have you ever thought about the priesthood? Have you ever thought about becoming a Viatorian? And maybe it was people in the parish that were saying, like, have you ever thought of the priesthood? And I do remember at one point in time, my pastor at the time even saying, have you ever thought about the Viatorians? And so somebody being able to see that in another person I think was really instrumental in helping me see some of that in myself.
Interesting. And as we look at this very unique situation, as you mentioned, the long history of the Viatorians in Bourbonnais at this parish, what sort of sense of responsibility do you feel as pastor to serve a parish with a 175-year history? That's quite a legacy. Is that something you have to kind of keep in mind as you go through your routine, daily, weekly, annually?
I really believe that, the people that I am, surrounded with here at Maternity also have that respect, for the tradition. Just the role of Maternity itself and the Bourbonnais community being the place where this community blossomed. I know, like with the daily Mass community, there's a number of people here in our parish that have ancestors who helped build this church, and so there is a sense of reverence that the people have for the parish, and of course, definitely in decision making, there is a sense of preserving the past. But I do believe, though, that the people here still want to reach the people of today. We realize that if it were just preservation alone, we would gradually die, but that there are people who are also committed in keeping this to be a vibrant parish of today as well. And people
I'm glad you said that, because my list of questions here, in addition to talking about that history, I'm wondering, what you and members of the community have done to bring more contemporary elements to the parish. The church is obviously changing in many ways. The world is changing. How do you take a community with such a great tradition and yet add new elements, and what might some of those elements be to keep it vibrant?
I do believe that, yes, people do appreciate the tradition, so they're very interested, and together we're very interested in keeping this beautiful church in as best of shape as possible. But as far as reaching the community of today, we have sought different best practices. What are some of the other churches been doing? What has succeeded? How can we bring our people together to try to get families active? And one of the things that we've tried to do was create different benchmarks and like statements of mission, so that we know what we're called to do and how our own expression of the larger mission of the Catholic Church, and then to create expressions of our vision that we may see ourselves, what do we look like at our best? And so, and in many ways, it's just applying some of those best practices here at Maternity BVM Church. We have a dedicated staff who give more than just what's required of them, and then they really have their heart in the mission here at Maternity, and our pastoral council as well. They're at this point in time, so committed to trying to get people to come back to church and coming up with different events and activities and things like that.
We're talking with Father Jason Nesbit today, talking about his role as a Viatorian in serving as the pastor of Maternity of the Blessed Virgin Mary Parish in Bourbonnais, and he's sharing some great thoughts about himself and his community. And Father Jason, on some of our previous podcasts, we've talked with a number of young people, people who have made commitments to the church and to the Viatorians in different ways, through the Viatorian Youth Congress, through youth ministry, through music ministry. What are you able to do to engage young people, which is critical to the Viatorian mission in your parish today?
Coming out of the pandemic, at times we have, struggled because at times we were just unable to come together. So we're trying to rebuild a vibrant youth ministry here at Maternity BVM. I think one of the things that we find most successful is just inviting people to participate, give them something to do so they are not just passive, sitting there, but that they have a stake in what is happening. And so we have a vibrant youth-led liturgy where we try to listen to their insights and also have them carry out many of the roles in the liturgy as well. And it seems like with COVID, we lost a year and a half of programming. I mean, it was still going on, but we're trying now to build leaders again, to give them a sense of leadership. And the Youth Congress really helps with that formation, and that we can send our young people there and they can be formed as leaders here in our Viatorian institution. And young people too, when I really see them at their best is when they're called to service. They really rise to the occasion. When we have our summertime, what we call Camp Mosh, which is a outreach to the community, they really, we may not see them for a while, but if we give them those types of opportunities, they really rise to the occasion.
Interesting. Now, I'm going to throw a question at you that is probably a whole podcast unto itself, and I'll warn you, we've only got a minute or two left. But I'm just curious, as a product of a Viatorian high school up here in Arlington Heights, the people who were brothers and priests when I was in school have gone on to lead different Viatorian parishes and organizations around the country. They seem to kind of come and go, and I can drop names, and they're all interconnected. As someone, the community is so involved in high schools, what is it like when you interact with your peers, with the other Viatorians who have different roles? What do you learn and gain from one another?
I do. I think when we come together, we do have the different. We may have different, ministries. Those who have, worked in the schools, those who worked in the parishes. But I do believe, we always, somebody will always ask me what's going on at the parish, and I may ask them what's going on at the school. But in that interplay, I feel like we learn, from each other, that I can learn more about, outreach to young people, and then I can always kind of share, insights about liturgy, or, since I'm so involved in it on a daily basis, and, and I feel like that, that the professed Viatorians that work together, we really do learn from each other, but that also extends in our conversations with our associates as well, that they bring not only the professional experience, but the vocation of family life as well. And I think we do, whether we know it or not, we nurture each other in those conversations. Yeah. And for example, I think one of my more recent visits, first visit ever to Cristo Rey St. Viator High School, I'd never been there, and then by going there and seeing young people who are just so enthusiastic about their school, left an impression, and knowing that, yes, that's a Viatorian footprint there, and we're all, in a way, a part of that.
And it's just so interesting, and I'll wrap up here by thanking you, Father Jason Nesbit, for being with us. But with a parish that reaches back 175 years and Viatorian influence, really a connection to Father Louis Curbs himself. And I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. The Viatorian community proclaims Jesus Christ and his gospel and raises communities where faith is lived, deepened, and celebrated. And this includes Maternity BVM Parish in Bourbonnais. The Maternity Parish is inspired by the gospel of Jesus Christ and nourished by the Holy Eucharist to serve as missionary disciples, radiating the light and love of Christ to all, and that's part of their mission. You can learn more about it yourself by visiting their website at mbvmchurch.org, mbvmchurch.org. Father Jason Nesbit, thanks for being with us. Certainly enjoyed the conversation. We look forward to sharing more on future episodes.